everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do a Friday Reads video as well as a mini library haul. It is March, and March means March Mystery Madness, so that is a good portion of what I'm planning to read in March is mysteries. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is actually one that I DNF'd from my TBR, and that is Histories by Kate Atkinson, which is follows a detective called Jackson Brody, and the story is about several old crimes, and Jackson Brody is supposed to investigate them, and there's an unexpected connection between the different crimes. So I read about 160 pages, and I wasn't really impressed with it, mostly because even after a good chunk of the book, I didn't feel like it had gone anywhere, and we were still being introduced to characters after 100 pages. So I wasn't really impressed, and I didn't really feel motivated to continue, so I figured that I will just stick with the television show instead, that I actually really enjoyed. So yes, I wasn't super impressed. I didn't really hate it. I found myself laughing sometimes when I was reading it, but I didn't find the writing particularly interesting on its own, and I felt like the story wasn't going anywhere even after about a third of the book. After DNFing that, I went on to my next mystery, which was The Murder at the Vicarage by Agatha Christie, which is the first Miss Marple book in the series, and I have never read Miss Marple before, so that this was my choice for new to be introduced to Miss Marple. So this book follows Miss Marple on her first case. There's a murder happening. A murder happened in the house next to her. The man who was murdered, his wife had an affair, and the man she had an affair with is the suspect, and he's already given himself up, although it is clear to the police at this point where I'm at that he couldn't have killed the man. So yeah, so I'm enjoying it so far. Not 100% connected with it yet, because Miss Marple hasn't actually been super prominent yet, but yeah, I'm about a fourth of the way into this, so probably am gonna be more stuck in the further I get. So yeah, so that is the mystery I'm currently reading. A thing that I sort of decided, because I am trying to read as much mysteries as possible in March, I decided that all of the other books that I'm going to be reading this month, I wanted to prioritize nonfiction books, especially because in February I read mostly fiction. So yes, I just sort of set myself a random goal of wanting to read mysteries and all of the other books to be nonfiction. So I picked up a book that I've had on my shelves for a while, and that is The Man Who Made Things Out of Trees by Robert Penn, which is a natural history book about ash trees. So as far as I've gotten now, he has decided to look for the perfect ash tree and to cut it down and then make a lot of things of the tree, and this book seems to be sort of his process in creating things with this particular wood, and the connection with human life and human society with trees historically and in the present time. So I'm quite enjoying this so far. I really love British natural history in general. I find I have a specific interest in natural history set in Britain over any other places. So yes, I'm really enjoying this so far, and I've already felt that I've learned quite a lot about this particular tree. Because the previous nonfiction book I read was natural history, I wanted to continue on with that, since I haven't actually been reading natural history for a weeks or months even, and yeah, I've just sort of missed it. So yeah, so I'm enjoying this, and we'll see where this takes me. Those are the two books that I'm currently reading. I've quite recently started both of them. So on to my library haul. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books that I have out from the library. 2 of them are by the same author. They are by the same author that I read my first mystery in March by. And first up we have a Midsummer's Equation. This is one of the Detective Galileo mysteries, and it is by Keigo Higashino. I read The Devotion of Suspect X in the beginning of March, and I will talk about it in the next wrap up. But yeah, so this is the part of the same series following Detective Galileo, who is a physicist, and he's really smart, and he helps the police. Basically, he's like a consultant to the police. He's not actually a police detective himself, he just helps the police in their investigations. And in The Devotion of Suspect X, the criminal is directly linked to him, so you got a pretty good sense of Detective Galileo as an individual through that book, and I really enjoyed the book as a whole. So I really wanted to continue on reading Higashino's work in general, and I thought that since I already got to know a few of the characters in the previous one, I would easily be able to get into another in the series. And they're not actually in order or anything, because not all of the books in the series are even translated into English. The next one is a more recent release, and it is The Name of the Game is Kidnapping, also by Keigo Higashino. And this is obviously about kidnapping, but this is not part of the series. It's a standalone, I think. And I think this was translated into English in 2017. So this was a new release and a new addition to the library as well. I don't really know what this is about, but again, I just picked it up based on the author being really interesting as a writer. So we shall see how those goes, but they are definitely high on my priority to get to. Next up we have a book that I'm not quite sure if it is qualified as a mystery, but it is Red Girls, and it is by Kazuki Sakuraba. So again, this is a Japanese, translated from Japanese. Seems to be sort of, has some elements of a mystery, but more of the fantasy and sci-fi sort of horror element. I'm not quite sure what this is, but the reason I picked this up is because it is by a Japanese female writer, and I'm trying to sort of prioritize reading Japanese fiction from women because they are much less translated into English. It's written by a woman, I think, who is mainly a mangaka, so it's going to be interesting to see how she gets on with writing a book. And the next one is also written by a Japanese woman writer, but she's much more well known, and it is Penance by Kanae Minato. She wrote another book called Confessions that has become much more popular and has also been made into a movie, I think, that I'm also really interested in that book. But I decided to pick this up. I think it is more recent. Yeah, the first English translation of this was also published in 2017. And the back says, one afternoon, 5 girls encounter a mysterious stranger at the neighborhood park. The stranger tricks Sae, Maki, Akiko, and Yuka into leaving their friend Emily alone with him. Then the unthinkable occurs. Hours later, Emily is found dead. The case goes unsolved. Blaming the surviving girls, Emily's mother curses them, swearing that they will pay the price for her daughter's murder. So it's a revenge story, which is definitely a sort of a storyline that I love. I love revenge as a theme in books and in actually in all forms of media. I love the theme of revenge, and I think her first book was also about Confessions, I think, is also about revenge. So if I like this, I will definitely go on to the next. Lastly, we have a book that I'm not sure if it qualifies as a mystery, but it is Such Small Hands by Barba. So I've seen this book around for a while, and I think Simon from Savage Street has mentioned this as well. So it's been on my radar for a while, but the reason I wanted to pick it up immediately was because of a review from, I think her channel name is Freddie Reads. She talked about this book and it sounded really interesting, especially the way the narrative is done. She talked about the narrative partly being in first person plural, and that is something that I've seen done horribly and also really successfully, and one of the good examples of it is the Twins trilogy by Agatha Christie that I mentioned in basically all of my videos. From the description from the review, it sounded like it could be sort of similar to that, and the purpose for the narrative form seemed to be sort of similar to that. It's about a young girl called Marina, but it says, now she lives in an orphanage with other little girls, but Marina is not like other little girls. In the curious, hyper-real, feverishly serious world of childhood, the girls play games of desire and warfare. The daily rituals of playtime, lunchtime, and bedtime are charged with horror. So it sounds super interesting and something that could easily be really up my alley, so I'm hoping that it is the case and that it's done successfully. So those are the books I have out from the library, and also what I'm currently reading, and probably because they are from the library, what I'm going to be reading soon. So if you've read any of these, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you are participating in March Mystery Madness and you're reading something good, or have any recommendations for me, feel free to let me know. I hope you have a really good day and weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.